I think it all goes back is to being diversified. If you talk to any financial advisor, any of those gurus, they always tell you, be diversified. And a lot of folks get stuck on this adage that, oh, I need to be diversified in stocks. Well, the stock market in of itself, yes, you can diversify within it, but that's not true diversification. If you look at Warren Buffett, um, Elon Musk, any of the big billionaires, especially on the investment side, they're all over the place, right? They're invested in small businesses, big businesses. They're into real estate. They're in the stock market. They're in precious metals, oil and gas. That's true diversification. And so, it is harder for us normal folks to get into those. And so I think that's what intrigues me as well is how can I solve a problem? How can I get my friends and family into the same asset classes that the uber rich? And that's kind of what we're doing. That's where my interest is. How do I stay diversified? And I had direct experience. I was in real estate, buying single family homes when I was still active duty. And, I survived the '08 crash. It's not because I'm some brilliant mastermind and had the foresight and this crystal ball. I got lucky. The military moved me every couple of years, and I bought properties in these different markets in different states. And that's the only reason when the crash happened, I had probably 10 rental units across 5 states, from Florida to New Jersey, South Carolina, out to Texas. And, my Florida and New Jersey properties, like, just the bottom fell out. But my South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas properties, they kind of just went flat. But I had enough cushion in there to allow me to cover all my property. So I did not have to short sale, foreclose, or anything. And so I learned firsthand the value of diversification. So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Superpower Conversations. If you haven't watched the past ones, I recommend you do. They were great. It's just the beginning, but you can see their testimonials of Paula and Jay talking about their reinvention, transformation, and choosing to go through trauma. No, I mean, not choosing to go through, but choosing to overcome trauma. And that already shows, also with my personal experience, that it's all in our minds. We have the control. We just need patience to, after trauma, build a strong foundation and build from there. So, welcome again, and please enjoy today's superpower conversation. See you there. Hello, Mr. Colby Bowers. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, buddy.
Thanks a lot for this. I really appreciate it. I've been meaning to ask you to come here ever since I had this idea. So you are one of the contacts, the people that I'm in contact with that I look up to. So yeah,
It's a
and
pleasure to be on here, and yeah, looking forward to our conversation today for sure.
awesome, awesome. Um, um, I so from my notes here, you're a real estate investor. That's how we met, actually, and anything investor, actually, because you are trying a lot of things there, and ex-military, yeah.
Correct.
Oh, by the way, last episode I had a conversation with Jay Teagues. You know Jay Teagues?
Nope, nope, doesn't ring a bell.
He is one of the high performance coaches in the Warriors group,
Okay.
Rodcliffe's group, and he's also ex-military. So I would invite you to watch the last episode. He shared a lot of interesting things. Well, was mind blowing. So just I
Will
just
do.
reminded you because he's also a fellow ex-military. And I also consider you one of my unofficial mentors. You don't know that, but yeah, that's how good our conversations are. So
Well, I love it.
yeah,
Thank you. I'm honored.
thank you for that. Did I get everything right, or am I missing something here?
Yeah, no, that's it in a nutshell. You did good.
Awesome, awesome. How's this year treating you so far, and what are the current projects?
This year's been really good. Surprisingly so, even though the real estate market is has been a challenge for everybody across all markets right since the end of last year. So I'm kind of transitioned a little bit. You got to always be kind of pivoting and moving. And so on the real estate side, uh, really just focusing on the properties that we currently have. So just making sure they're staying stabilized or operating as efficiently as possible. But I've taken a lot of what I've learned from the real estate world, specifically like syndications and capital raising and the due diligence piece, and I'm applying it to some new sectors, specifically like you and I talked about before, purchasing oil and gas wells and refurbishing those, as well as we are expected to close here probably in the next 45 to 60 days on a 640-acre gold claim in southern Arizona. So just got our geological report back from that, and it's exceeded all of our valuation expectations through the roof. So it really proves to the adage of do your due diligence and don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. So hire those experts and the folks you need that shore up your weaknesses. So real quick with that, and what I'm really let me explain on that. Is in real estate when you go out and you do your due diligence on the property, it's not just underwriting. You have to actually go and inspect the property. Well,
Yep.
you're not just going to inspect it yourself, or you should not, unless you are a certified inspector. So, you're going to have an inspector, you're going to have, probably a general contractor, roofing, whoever you need to, those experts to really dig in on that property. Well, take those same principles and we're applying it to oil and gas and to gold claim. So we hired a geologist, we've hired a geophysicist company that actually comes out and did seismic testing. We put some money into it, but our initial thought of a $20 million valuation based off of sellers' uh, data was wrong. It's actually over 85 million, and it'll probably, once all said and done, will be closer to 150 to 200 million. So by the time
Awesome.
we're done with this project,
Wow, that's awesome to hear.
just
Those
from
are the
doing
kind of news, right?
doing due diligence and bringing those experts in.
And yeah, I can see the technical side of how you are applying one thing, like the real estate knowledge, into these other investments. But how come you got to this idea, or what's the mindset of trying these new things? So how's that process to you?
I think it all goes back is to being diversified. If you talk to any financial advisor, any of those gurus, they always tell you be diversified. And a lot of folks get stuck on this adage that, oh, I need to be diversified in stocks. Well, the stock market in of itself, yes, you can diversify within it, but that's not true diversification. If you look at Warren Buffett, um, Elon Musk, any of the big billionaires, especially on the investment side, they're all over the place, right? They're invested in small businesses, big businesses. They're into real estate. They're in the stock market. They're in precious metals, oil and gas. That's true diversification. And so, it is harder for us normal folks to get into those. And so I think that's what intrigues me as well, is how can I solve a problem? How can I get my friends and family into the same asset classes that the uber rich? And that's kind of what we're doing. That's where my interest is. How do I stay diversified? And I had direct experience. I was in real estate, buying single family homes when I was still active duty. And, I survived the '08 crash. It's not because I'm some brilliant mastermind and had the foresight and this crystal ball. I got lucky. The military moved me every couple of years, and I bought properties in these different markets in different states. And that's the only reason when the crash happened, I had probably 10 rental units across 5 states, from Florida to New Jersey, South Carolina, out to Texas. And, my Florida and New Jersey properties, like, just the bottom fell out. But my South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas properties, they kind of just went flat. But I had enough cushion in there to allow me to cover all my property. So I did not have to short sale, foreclose, or anything. And so I learned firsthand the value of diversification. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I brought that over into the multifamily, onto the syndication, buying apartment buildings, and I made it a one of my number one priorities is not to have all my apartments into one market. And so, at the height, I had about 1,500 units across 5 states. So taking that, and then, this opportunity for gold. I'm like, hey, that's a different asset class. Real estate's not doing well. The stock market has kind of been crazy. Gold's been going up. It's a safe commodity. Same thing with the oil side. So I'm just shoring up my bets. I'm trying to play chess and not checkers, even though most days it is checkers and maybe even tic tac toe. Um, trying to stay, ahead of this market, and staying relevant and stuff. But it's fun. I like solving problems and got a good team. So
Nice, nice. Um, the only I well, diversification. That's what we hear a lot. There's no I can't think of anything against it. The only parenthesis is from my experiences when you're starting, it's better to focus in one
that is true.
so you can right get traction, and then you look to diversify also in terms of preservation, right? So yeah, it's
And you're
really
absolutely
interesting.
right. Definitely, you're absolutely right. When I didn't start expanding out until after a couple of years, in
Oh.
multifamily or the single family. Um, and you hit it on the head is, you need to master, because each marketplace has different nuances. So especially starting out with underwriting and, knowing, market rents and stuff like that. Absolutely right. Hyper focused. Focus on even one neighborhood, one little section of a small market, and then expand from there once you're comfortable and you have that experience and a little bit of expertise. And then you can take that same process you did and apply it to other markets. So I became really good in Arkansas. That's where I started out my multifamily side. And then from there, I went to Indiana, and then I expanded in Texas. So I'm in, and then I was in Georgia, Pennsylvania. So I'm kind of starting to downsize a little bit on the portfolio, just because of the way multifamily it is hard to buy right now. But yeah, you start small and then take that process, and you can duplicate it in other areas very quickly.
Nice. Yes, yes. And I know that all of this does not come without its challenges. So, do you have any biggest challenge that you had and the lessons learned from it that you could share with us here?
man, every day, every project is a lesson learned. Even now, I've been doing this for a while. I've probably been in real estate investing for 20 years. Well, probably over 25 years, actually, 2001. So 24, 24 years when I bought my first rental property. Starting from, but I've been really probably the last 7 years into the multifamily, and then in the last 12 months, other in industries and sectors. So it's sorry, my TBI for my injuries in military. What was the original question? I got off track. I'm sorry.
No, no issues. But yeah, I know. I will ask you about this, but I don't know what TBI is. What's TBI?
Traumatic brain injury. I
Ah,
was
okay.
I was blown up twice in Iraq, and then I jumped out of airplanes for a few years. So multiple concussions, and so something I get short term memory. And
Whoa, man.
so,
I did. Yeah,
oh, challenge. See, that is my challenge right there. It just came back to me. Ask me about challenges. See,
yeah.
I didn't plan that. I didn't plan that. So my
Whoa.
physical
No,
challenge.
now tell me about it. Yeah. Whoa, that's crazy. But by the way, I never noticed anything. So if that really affected you, I haven't noticed anything in neither of our previous conversation.
I try to be very cognizant of it and focused. So, but sometimes my mind gets going in multiple directions, and so it kind of my internal tangent struggles within my brain, uh, peeks his head out. So that honestly is overcoming my self doubt and my challenges, my confidence. Has really been a big challenge and very humbling because it makes you realize that you're going to make mistakes, and I probably make more mistakes than the average person because my memory is not the best like it used to be. uh, so I think staying humble, uh, staying grounded as best you can, and realizing that mistakes are going to happen. I everyone suffers from pride. I even had a humbling experience here recently on a project. It's like I thought, I could juggle multiple things, and I did not ask my partners for help, and I dropped the ball. So I mean, it happens. We're recovering, and finally, they reached out. We got the help, and but I could have asked for help a lot sooner, and would not have been as stressful. So uh, get a good team is really bottom line. Is over. Don't do everything yourself. Ask for help. Know your limitations. Stay humble. Just because you get good at something, it's going to bite you in the ass. Whether it's the market, it's COVID, it's an investor, it's a contractor, you know, something is going to knock you off your high horse. And so, be prepared for it and expect it. So I think one of my favorite sayings is, fail early and fail often. Often. So especially starting out, don't look at it as like, oh, I can't, I have to be perfect. No, or hey, I need to raise X number of dollars for capital. Yes, have goals, but also realize is that you're going to fail. And so, all right, I'm going to fail my first 10 times. That's all right. So when you go and you fail that first time, you look at it as like, okay, I didn't fail. I have 9 more times to figure this out before I'm going to be successful. I need to try it. So you just got to change that mindset to realize that, you know, it's going to happen. Just overcome it,
Yeah,
deal with it, and move on.
that fail is okay, right? Yeah, I learned that recently. I am just I would say that usually I was always okay. I was always okay with failure. That's what I'm gonna say. But I was too eager to do things. So on my recent projects, I'm just taking care of planning more, studying more, other than okay, I'm okay with failure, so let's go and let's do it. I'm good with that. So, but now I'm trying to okay, drop a little bit and let's plan a bit more. So yeah,
Well, and then and then align yourself or partner with folks with a lot more experience. So
yeah,
that way, your failures are guided failures. And in that way, they're not truly failures; they're more like a setback. Because you're in the learning process, and then you have a bit of a safety net because you have those experienced partners that you can reach out to, that can help save the day, if you will,
yeah,
which gives you more confidence to go out there and put yourself out there, and to grow, you have to stretch, and to stretch, you have to take on things that you might not normally feel comfortable doing,
yeah.
where there is
No,
going to be a high rate of failure first
yeah.
time doing something. So
No, we just thrive on being uncomfortable. Actually, that's what I'm doing here. I like to communicate, but I'm not a great communicator, and this is really uncomfortable for me. Also, because English not my first language, but I want to grow through it and grow. But yeah, so I agree, totally agree. Um, would you? I want to understand a great from all these experiences. What would you consider like a great blessing, even though um, it seems everything was lost, or um, when we are on that low point, but afterwards, would you think of something that, oh, that was a great blessing, actually?
and there's probably so many. I'm I know something I'm very thankful for, and maybe it is a blessing in some way, and I probably can't necessarily put an exact incident or specific thing that happened that made this a blessing, but I think it is having great partners that I could lean on. As starting out, and even not even starting out, it's typically you're a one person show. You're trying to do underwriting, you're trying to do due diligence, and no matter what you're investing in, whether it's real estate or stocks or a company, there's a lot of moving parts, and you'll realize very quickly that you can't do it alone. And I think that being able to have good partners that are willing to step up when you ask for that help, to bounce ideas, because there's been a lot of, not necessarily a failure, but let's just stress, trying time, like raising capital. Because that's stressful for everybody. You got to go out to talk to a bunch of strangers and try to raise capital, and you get all these no's, right? Maybe you're like, man, this is the best thing since peanut butter and jelly, and it's good. It's going to be great. That people should be just opening their wallets and writing checks, but you're getting all these no's, and it could be having that partner to give you that pep talk. Maybe he's going, hey, give me your pitch, and then giving you some feedback. Maybe it's like, hey, this is really good information, but maybe tweak this here. Don't focus on this. Focus on just someone to help with you, a little bit of direction. Somebody to kind of vent to, that understands, that knows the project, can actually give you some feedback. Um, to me, I think has been crucial. So even if you're an introvert, you've got to find a team. You got to be an extrovert enough to be able to have those conversations. Because I've had a couple weeks ago, actually. I was stressing. We were getting ready to go on a close. We needed something with the gold claim, the gold mine, not necessarily with the close itself. I don't remember the specifics, but needed something. And I was just hitting brick wall after brick wall. And I was talking to one of my two partners, and he's like, "Hey man, just go take the rest of the day off." I'm like, "I can't." And he's like, "You don't have a choice. You need to go take a day off." Because you know what? I'm gonna put Steve over here, have him just run some quick numbers, really, or do whatever the case may be. They kind of take it up. And so I did. Took the family out. We went out to dinner. It was great to step away. He noticed the stress that I was kind of, getting overwhelmed a little bit, and you noticed that and said, just take time for yourself. And the other team members, they picked up the slack. Came back the next morning, had a little powwow, and it was great. I mean, we went back, and then those walls started coming down because now there was two of us chipping away at them instead of just, well, actually three of us chipping away instead of just me. And vice versa. And that's happened the other way around as well. So, you know, partners are great. This is the biggest lesson learned for me.
Well, yeah. I so far only had my life partner, and this year I am joining a partnership to that we are building some business, and that's a great lesson. Yeah. At first, I thought that I needed a partner because I needed to. Okay, I'm good at this, and I know this other person is good at that. Like I am hands on, and the partner is more organized or more planning. So, but from what you're saying, it's also to share the load. It serves as a sounding board.
Mm.
uh, yeah. Wow, that's great. That's great.
And I'll tell you, all my partners, it started out just what you mentioned. Who can help me with my weaknesses? But then you'll learn like I said, it goes beyond that. It's about the team, the health of the team. If a team member is not doing well, the business suffers.
Yeah.
So, looking out for each other is kind of one of those intangibles that, now moving forward, as I'm looking for partners on projects, I'm looking, what do they bring, to the project skill wise, but also more so probably in the forefront, how are they going to fit in with the team? Are they a true team player? Is it about getting something, about being, you know, accomplishing the mission, as we used to say in the military? Are we going to, be able to go in and complete our mission? And it's not about what's in it for me, what's in it for the team and to get the mission done, and I'll be taken care of, second. And so trying to find that in partners moving forward has kind of been my shift these days.
Okay. Okay. And now that you bring the military, I wanted to because well, upfront, I have no experience with military. Brazil is not a military country, so this is pretty. I can't. I don't have. I have no notion about it. So my question would be how the military changed you in terms of mindset or whatever you can think, and the transition from that life to what you build until today. What what was the role that it played in you?
No, it's a good question. So, I spent 23 years in the military and ended up retiring, after 20 plus years. And, kind of looking back, because I've been asked that question multiple times, and even in retrospect, it's like, what was the benefit? Really, I think when it comes to business, and going back to the team, the military, I think, does two things very, very well. The first one is teaching you how to become a follower before a leader, and a lot of that comes with team building. So if the military with deployments or what have you, right? You go from the civilian sector, the civilian world, no discipline per se, and they'll take a couple hundred of you and put you into basic training. And so, that team build, that storming, norming, forming, conforming, all that stuff, to get to a team, the military does it in a short amount of time, typically, 8 to 12 weeks, depending on which branch you go through. And then from there, it doesn't end, because you're going to go from basic training from that team that you found your place in. You're going to graduate. Then you're going to put you into the real military. You're going to be out there doing your job within a squadron. And so you learn very, very quickly how to integrate yourself within teams and find out. Yes, you have rank on your shoulder, on your collar, and that kind of, tells you, hey, where do you fall in the pecking order? But when it comes to getting the job done, rank only does so much. Is how can you fill in? Can you follow orders? Can you collaborate? Can you get the mission done? So the military does a really great job. The other thing the military does is get you focused, right? And something that they always talk about is commander's intent. So the commander's intent is, this mission. Like, you're going to go, and no matter what your job is, there's always you're going to either deploy, whether you're here stateside or what we call home station. You have your home station mission, or when you deploy to Afghanistan, Iraq, South America, Africa, it doesn't matter where, you have a mission. And you're briefed what that mission is by your commander. And there's always the commander's intent. Commander's intent could be as simple as, we're going to go over here and we are going to train Iraqi police to be the best police officers they can. All right, I just kind of pulling that on my butt. So, right, that may be our main guidance. We're going to get some training in the meantime, right, on what to do, because it's part of our job. But when we get over there to do the mission, our intent, we're left is, how do we get to, the command? How do we complete that mission? And so you have a lot of that flexibility. So you're not stuck necessarily to a rigid system, right? And what I mean by that is, I was medical. So yeah, I'm on a, my, for medics should be bored. If I'm doing my job, typically bad things are happening, whether that's from the enemy or stupidity, sickness, whatever the case may be. If a medic's busy, then the mission is probably not being successful. So that being said, there's a lot of downtime for me as a medic, which is great. So guess what? I just don't sit there and twiddle my thumbs. So now what can I do? I'm part of this team. Our intent is to train Iraqis. Okay, cool. Guess what? I'm going to go and figure out, hey, maybe I've got this idea. I'm going to teach the Iraqi police how to do basic self-aid and buddy care. Hey, you know what? That's a great job, because they're going to potentially get injured. They got a very dangerous job. Let's add that to the training so they can be the best Iraqi police officers they can. Right? So that's, in a nutshell, the military. So you transition and take that same mindset and you bring it over to the business world. And that's what I do. Yes, I was brought on to, say, raise capital. I raise capital. I'm not just going to sit there and twiddle my thumbs. Hey, you know what? Maybe I take on investor relations, or you know what? I have some availability. I'll come out and I'll do the walkthrough inspections on the apartment buildings. Find other places to make myself useful, and a lot of that, I guess, directly transfer over from the military. And it's, how do I get the mission done? I don't ask what's in it for me, because I'm assuming that my partners are going to see that I'm stepping up and that they're going to take care of me. And it goes back to, is like I said, is I'm looking for partners that are more so about getting the mission done. So if we've aligned and I found the right partners, I know that I'm going to get paid when the time comes. So, and I have noticed that in not all the time, but in a lot of situations when I'm working with civilians, that it's, okay, you want me to go, I'm doing this, cool, I'm getting compensated for this, but you just asked me if I could help you out over here. Well, am I going to get another percentage? And I've had that, and that to me is not, that it's more out for them and it's not for the team. It's not about getting the job done. To me, that says that there's potentially a higher chance of failure in that project because the partners are not unified. So I said a lot to say is learned a lot in the military about getting the mission done, and I think it's transferred very, very well over into the civilian side and who I align with and how projects work.
Great, interesting. Um, it's interesting that what it seems to be ranked uh, hierarchy, right? Maybe it's redundant, but well, you have like a mindset of what I would understand is instead of an employee mindset, you're talking about the owner mindset where I want this to be successful, so I'll do whatever it takes. That's to me what it seems interesting. Uh, Even though there are the ranks, you can step up, right? Hmm.
And there's and I think that you're supposed, the military really leans on that servant leadership, and so that really means is, I was really high ranking when I retired, and there was a lot of times where I didn't have to do certain things. They call rank has its privileges, but yes, I've earned that privilege through time, promotions, experience, whatever you want to say, call it. But being a team player is not sitting, in on your throne. I guess is a good analogy. It's more of, hey, I've gone out and I've worked in the field. Like I've cleaned toilets as the highest, one of the highest ranking individuals. It was a job that needed to get done. If there was a need, there was nobody there to fill it, or even if there was, I'd go out there and I'd help out. You know, so you know you get on that level. Even though if I'm in charge of a project, I'm going to be out there with the boots on the ground. So whether that's with the inspectors, the general contractors, the maintenance folks. I just don't rely on property management. I go out there and as an owner, and I'll work alongside with maintenance going out there. I've done that. I like it because I can go in and I can talk to the tenants. I don't tell them I'm an owner. Hey, I'm part of the maintenance crew today. How's things going? Working. Bob's here. He's fixing your toilet. We're gonna get that. What else is going on with your unit? How have we been doing? How's customer service? And then I'm over there helping Bob take the toilet out. Getting him a wax ring and putting it in, and handing him nuts and bolts and stuff, and then carrying it out. And spilling toilet bowl, you know, uh, stuff all over your shoes because it all leaks out the bottom. Whatever the case may be, and getting dirty. And so, yeah, I think that's a key important to building a team is filling in where you need to.
But you always had that motivation, or it was also part of the military training or the transformation for you. So you always had that in you.
Yeah, I think everyone does. I think it's part of your upbringing. I think as I'm gonna say as children, through high school, yes, you're competitive in sports, but you learn how to be on a team. You're active, you have a social life, whatever the case may be, and your parents are always, share nicely, share your toys, type stuff. And I think through the corporate world, and not all, because there's a lot of great jobs out there that the bosses are team players, and even in the corporate side. But I've noticed more so when you start getting in the upper echelon, the C suite, there's a lot of disconnect between the grunt work, if you will, the boots on the ground, and the folks that sit behind the offices. And I think as folks are working their way through that, they lose a lot of that, how to share. A lot of folks get into that castle building. They try to get in a mindset of, okay, how do I keep myself from getting laid off? How do I make myself irreplaceable? And I under I don't fully understand that because I've never been in that world. Um, but yet I get it at the same time because I do have friends, especially now with Doge, that are potentially losing their jobs. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I understand it, but I don't fully feel it because I've never been in that situation. But I still try to maintain this mentality of going, listen, even now, like with the gold claim, my partners were all military veterans. My goal is to train. I don't want to have to go out there. I want the folks we hire to take over my job. I'm looking long term for my company. I'm looking for a CEO. How do I find it? Do I train that person? Do I bring them from the inside? I'm not trying to like, how do I keep my job? So we try to instill that out on the claim with our workers, going, listen, you're the heavy equipment operator. You've got, this important job. Listen, I need you to train your replacement because guess what? I need you to now become an expert over here on, say the front end loader. And then once you're done with that, you're going to train your replacement because then we're going to put you into a leadership position because we're going to take the shift supervisor and we're going to put him over, project management. So we're always looking at how do we keep folks so we don't get that castle building. How do they get, they're training their replacements so they can go on a vacation. We want our guys to go, hey boss, I want to miss a rotation. Awesome. You made enough money. Go take, this rotation off, this, 60 days. Go to Hawaii. Come back. We'll see you in, on the next rotation. And the replacement's filled. Seamless. But they know
Yeah.
that they can take that time off and they have a job when they come back.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the corporate world is tough. I've always been in the corporate world, but I honestly making my way out of it. So,
So
yeah.
you can probably then relate in where you've probably seen some of your coworkers or certain folks that, they put these walls up. Like they won't train you on what they do. They keep it a secret.
Yeah, it's siloed. It's too
Yeah.
siloed. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And to me,
Um,
that's decreases productivity.
it does because sometimes it's a lack of trust, and trust is
Right.
crucial.
Right.
Okay, well, that was awesome. Like I said in the beginning, with you, it's always. I didn't say that way, but I had it written here. With you, it's always golden nuggets that we can extract, man. So thanks a lot for that. Um, I like we'll be closing, and I like to have. I say that now it's gauging your mind after the warm up. I like. I have this set of questions here that I want to extract uh, more golden nuggets. Let's say.
Let's do
So,
it. Love it.
um, what would you do today, right? If you have to accomplish in 1 year, so across 1 year, you had to accomplish what you did your entire life. How would you do that?
Man, if I had to do one, get married again. Is that a
Like
fair
it.
answer? I think that's probably
It
my
is.
greatest
It is.
accomplishment because my wife is not just a great supporter, but like she's always got a boot in my butt. I like to say, it's like, hey, get out there, do what you got to do, get to work, do it, in a loving way. She's always there, like pushing me. I guess is probably a better word. But it's not like I'm lazy and she's like, hey, go do work. But I
No, I
think,
love the answer.
yeah, and I think Man, it's just my life's been so much happier having a family than when I was single, because I've realized that there's more to life than money. There's more to life than materialistic things, and there's more to life than I can't say accomplishments, but awards. I guess I like to experience things. I like to show my son, how hopefully how to be a better person. I like to share my wins with my wife and family. So
Oh yeah, I think our successes are better with them. Yeah, totally agree. Um, and there was this point I was discussing with my wife the other day, that we were watching some series or movie, and the person said that, "Oh yeah, we are soulmates," and then it started a discussion because she asked, "Do you believe in soulmates, or you believe that we build it over time?" I didn't have an answer, but then she had, and of course she was right. We build it. So would you agree that it's something that we build and not that, oh, we were soulmates and it's still romantic?
yeah, I think life is definitely not a movie, with the Hallmark ending. I think it's life we're constantly building because we're learning and growing from our past experiences, and I think marriage is the same way. You're growing and stuff from you know past experiences. If forget an anniversary, you're going to only maybe do that once, and she's going to remind you all year until probably the following year. It's one of those things that they're going to remind you uh, about. So I mean, never make that mistake again. You learn. I just grew. Hey, I need to be right. Let's set those priorities. That's what life does. So,
Yes. Yeah. Totally agree.
and I have not
Next
missed.
one.
And I
Ah.
have not missed an anniversary. I just want to point that out. I'm just
Oh, it's good. Let's record that. Did I miss anniversary? I don't think I missed, but I'm always on. Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh, I have to do something. So always
so
last minute. Um, what is your version of success?
my version of success, man, it changes. It changes. Today, my version of success is uh, is two parts. The easy part is is financial security. Right? It's just a job, right? Working what I'm doing on a day in and day out. But I think where that leads into is to have that security that I can set my own schedule. And that's what I love, and I think that's what you're growing to. And the reason I don't work the 9 to 5, I don't want a 9 to 5. I last week my wife's like, "Hey, what do you got going tomorrow? Do you have meetings?" I'm like, "It's a light day. I have one meeting, but I can probably reschedule. Hey, why don't we go do this?" Absolutely. Blocked off my day, went out and then spent time with the family. To me, that is success. That's what I've been working for my whole life. And I'm still working at it because there's some days where I'm like, yeah, this week I can't do anything. Um, but that's ultimately I want to be able to dictate my days on my own terms, even more freely.
Yes, yes. That's totally where I'm aiming for, and I will get there for sure. Because yeah, looking for the financial freedom and the time freedom where I can choose and do exactly what you described. Yeah, so true. We will get there. We will get there. What what would you put in a billboard?
What would I put on a billboard?
Yeah.
I would put Colby Bowers is the greatest investor of all time. He's Well, how much wording do I have on this billboard? I guess is the big question.
It's your billboard. It's
Right? If
your
it's my
billboard.
billboard, I would, he's the up and coming Warren Buffett. Trust him with your money. Uh, just because, raising capital and building trust is probably the biggest obstacle. So, if I could have a billboard and put anything on it and not have any repercussions and that fantasy type billboard, yeah, that would be it. Toot my own horn a little bit just to make raising capital a little bit easier. But on the
Go
flip side
there.
of that, I say that, but I do like the humblingness at times of of struggle, if that makes sense. As easy as I want things to be, I think I also don't want to lose sight of you know that I have a huge responsibility, and I think what that is trust, right? Everyone wants trust to come easy, and a lot of times it does come easy, but maintaining trust is very difficult. And so I think that's where, yes, I want it to come easy and trust me with your money, but I also don't want to lose sight of, hey, this is other people's money. And so I need to stay grounded and humble that, I have a huge fiduciary responsibility to not lose their capital, like by putting it into bad deals.
No, I think I understand. You mean by putting the work, you see the value, right? Um, yeah,
I think no's are good.
indeed.
I think the no's are great to have because then it's a more of a retrospect. Okay, why did I not gain their trust? What do I need to do better? I think is what it boils
Yeah,
down.
good questions. Good questions. Um, any books or podcasts or any content that you would suggest?
There is one of my favorite books. I've got a whole host of them, but I think the one that really resonated most with me. And this is not going to be for everybody. So I'm a great ideas guy, right? I'm a visionary. I'm a problem solver, but I do struggle at the details. Right. That's so I really love Traction by, I think, Gino Wickman. It's called it's got it's the EOS process. I forget what the terminology, but really what it breaks it down is kind of like your 10-year vision, your 3-year, basically your goals. Here's where in 3 years where I want to be. Here's 2 years. Here's 1 year. You break it down by quarter and then monthly to weekly. And so that was very helpful with me because I could see the big picture. But how do I take that first step? Is typically a struggle. So if somebody's really good with the detail work, that might not be a good book for them. Maybe they need more of a visionary type looking book.
What's the name again?
It's called Traction.
Traction.
Traction. Yep. Gino Wickman. I'm pretty sure it's Gino Wickman.
Nice, nice. I tried this. Well, I think I'm trying now. So let's see this. Okay, what's the vision and bring it to your today. So let's see. Yeah.
Might be a really good book for you then.
Okay.
It's really
Okay.
helpful.
Awesome. Any last thoughts and messages you want to share?
Man, like I mentioned before, don't be afraid to fail early and fail often. And then the next best saying I kind of like is just say yes and figure it out.
Yeah. Say yes first and figure out later, right? So commit.
Especially to opportunities.
Yeah.
because you under everyone underestimates what they can do. What I and this is not my saying, but you've probably heard it. I think it's just a good talking thing too. Is like, what most people overestimate, or excuse me, underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years, but overestimate what they can do in 12 months. And I think it's um, I don't know. I kind of like that statement, but it kind of goes with the say yes and figure it out.
Okay, yeah, goes hand in hand.
Because saying
Yeah,
yes is going to cause you to fail early and fail often as well.
yeah. Uh, I think also boils down to patience. We are not a patience creature. I think
Mm-mm.
patient creature.
That
But yeah,
Oh yeah, and I'm
awesome.
probably one of the most impulsive at times and impatient. So,
Yeah.
but I put checks and balances. You just gotta have those checks and balances. But yeah, I'm like, let's go, let's go. I just wrote.
Yeah, let's go. Let's push it. Let's go. I know. I know. Awesome, Colby. I really appreciate it. I don't think I can express or enough how special it is. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It was
Thanks for
incredible.
having me. This has been fun. I love talking with you, Fernando. This is great, and I know we're going to be doing many years of having these conversations and hopefully working together on some projects here soon.
Yeah. Yes. We will. So thank you, man. Take
Absolutely,
care.
my pleasure.